What's up, everyone? Kevin here from Skywatcher, and welcome to another episode of the What's Up Webcast. We do this every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, right here at the Skywatcher USA YouTube channel. We cover everything from what's up in the night sky to equipment to helpful tips and tricks. And of course, at the end of the month, we have a special guest to talk about their specialty in the field of astronomy. Now, today we are actually going over our new wave mount series. We did do kind of an introduction to these when we announced them around NEAF back in April. So we did a video recently. However, our first shipment of these is actually in transit to us as we speak. So if you have one of these on pre-order, the first portion of those are on the way, and hopefully we'll see them by the end of the month, and then hopefully by early to mid-September, they will be in your hands. The first batch of any product goes through a QA process here. Actually, all of our shipments go through QA process here. But the first one of any new product takes longer because it's a new product to our team, and they have to get used to testing it. And these are very different than anything else that we've actually offered. So the QA process on this might take a little longer than, usual, but hopefully these will be making their way out to you in just the next few weeks. So we appreciate you being patient on all that, but they are on the way. We are very excited to have you get them and see what people think. They did make their official debut at Starfest last week. So if you were at Starfest up in Ontario last week, it was good to meet you all. It was good to see you and hang out with you. And we did have both the Wave 100 and 150 out on display, and they were being used. So people seem to like them. And then I wouldn't be surprised if you start to see some videos pop up and reviews as small batch of samples have made their way out to people, so we can start getting more information out there so all of you can actually check it out. So we appreciate you being patient. It's taken just a tad longer than we wanted, but they are on their way. So this episode is going to kind of flush out everything, because when we announced these, there were still a few little unknowns. We didn't have a lot of time to really get them and run through them. Now we have had time, and there has been some changes since the last video. So if you are watching the previous wave video, honestly, this is the one you're going to want to refer to, because there have been some slight changes since we announced them. Minor, but things that you should probably know. Before we get started, please go ahead and leave a like on a video, subscribe, let us know we're doing a good job. If you have an episode idea, you can email us at info@skywatcherusa.com. If you want to stay up to date with what's going on at Skywatcher, you can head over to skywatcherusa.com. And up at the top, you can hit subscribe and save and join our email list. It lets you know about sales, specials, new product announcements, the weekly What's Up webcast, all that fun stuff. You can subscribe on the website there and check it all out. Like I said, the first batch of the wave mounts is on the way, so thank you for being patient. We do have 25th anniversary Virtuosos in stock, so that's going on. There's all kinds of stuff going on, so you can go over there to our Skywatch USA page and check it out. And if you want to get some cool swag to support your Skywatcher stuff, you can go to skywatcher.threadless.com and pick out your favorite shirt or swag and stuff like that. It all goes to supporting the channel. All right, so let's get started here. Wave mounts. So if you have been living under a rock the last few months, the wave mounts are Skywatcher's entry into the strain wave market. For years, we have been asked when and why we haven't gotten into it. Well, we are. It has taken a while. You really need to take a look at the playing field. It's not always ideal to be first to the market. Sometimes it's nice to sit back and look and see how the first gen works from other distributors and brands, and see how the market receives it, and then take a step back and look what could be better on it. Now, the wave mounts, like I said, have taken some time to develop, but they have some unique features which we think a lot of you will actually like, and we have found those features to actually be pretty nice to have. I have played with an AM5 before. I have seen the rainbow mounts. I have been in the field with the Pegasus Astro mounts, the Nix 101, and then last week at Starfest they had an 88 present. So we have seen the Strainwave stuff on the market, and all of them are actually quite nice. So this is our entry into it. So let's just talk about the general features of these. We are releasing 2 mounts. There's the Wave 100 and 150. 100 being the smaller model, less payload, and the 150 being the larger model with some interesting features for imagers. But I'm going to break that apart as we get closer, and then right now we're going to talk about the general features that actually are shared between the 2 mounts. So Strainwave mounts, before I get into this, there's this notion that Strainwave is going to take over the typical worm ring gear design. I don't think that's going anywhere. However, that is not to discount the technology of Strainwave drives. Strainwave systems allow you to have a compact and lightweight system, perfect for traveling, and they just work well if you need something light and small or something easy to get out in the backyard and view. That's really where they excel. But one thing that we need to remember, because we've already had lots of questions about, hey, can I put this on there and can I put that on there? Strainwave mounts are low mass mounts. They do not have a lot of mass to them, and their body sizes are relatively small. So while, yes, indeed, they can handle the listed payloads, and I will show you guys some videos showing just that, it might not be ideal to push it to its payload limits, just like any other mount. So just keep that in mind, because a lot of people buy these and then they load them up and then they realize that, oh, I can't image at the size that I thought I could. No, they are low mass mounts. Low mass meaning there's not a lot of mass to them. They don't have a lot of weight to them. So it will be affected by wind. It will be affected by you walking around maybe a little bit more compared to something that's got some more heft to it. So, but that doesn't discount it. They do deserve to be here in the market. They are very popular, and having used them in the field, they are very nice to travel with. It's just another tool in the toolbox. But if you think they're going to simply replace the existing equatorial completely, I don't believe that is the case. There is enough of a market and enough of a need for both designs to actually exist together. It just depends on what you're looking for. Now, the wave mounts do feature the typical DV saddles. These are shared features between the 100 and the 150, so you can use both Vixen and Los Mondi style dovetail plates on these mounts. They both use a Strainwave system. From the motor, there is a belt, and then the belt takes it up to the Strainwave gear assembly. That's actually a fairly popular way of doing it. Nowadays, the AM5 does the same thing, and I'm sure several other manufacturers do it as well. But that is how these mounts do work. This is a Strainwave assembly. If you've never seen one, it's a little different than the typical ring gear and worm assembly that's, in like an EQ6 and all the typical stuff. So you have the wave generator. Then you have the flex spline is what they call it, or this one, it's a flexible wheel, but a lot of them call it a flex spline. And then you have the rigid wheel, which is the main gear assembly. So that is the inner workings of a Strainwave gear assembly. Here is an animation just to show you how that works. The green is the wave generator, the red is the flex spline, and then the blue is the main gear assembly. So rather than the teeth being on the outside of the gear, they sit on the inside of the gear. And you can actually see there that you have multiple teeth in contact with the main gear at a single time, rather than just like a tooth or two on a typical ring and worm gear assembly. Now, that's what you get there. There is no backlash in these mounts because of how this design works. They engage pretty tight. Now, our mounts are going to run on 12-volt power supplies. I believe 2 amps is the requirement for them, so they're pretty low power requirements, which makes it very nice for field use. You don't need to have some big battery to lug around. It doesn't take a lot to actually run it. Now, a unique feature to the wave mounts compared to anything else, and something that actually a lot of people seem to like and appreciate, especially having taken these to a star party at this point, both the Wave 150 and the 100 feature backlit red LED latitude adjustment scales and bubble levels. So there are LEDs that actually light those up. You can see it in the dark, which means if you're getting to a site a little bit late, and you're trying to set up when the sun's going down and you can't see your scales, they are lit. So you're actually able to see what you're working with. It's a nice little feature, especially when you're out in the field trying to get set up, and it becomes more helpful than you might think it is. So that's a nice little feature that these mounts actually have. And having used them now at a star party in a dark sky site, it does come in handy quite a bit. It's actually pretty handy. There's a question here. Can we do Altaz mode in 150? Yeah, we'll get to that here in a little bit. So both wave mounts are going to have Wi-Fi and now Bluetooth installed. The problem right now with Wi-Fi is you're starting to go to these star parties and everybody's on Wi-Fi. There's ASI Airs, there's mounts that have Wi-Fi in them, everyone's using apps, and that's all well and good, but the problem is when you have a lot of Wi-Fi signals in one spot, you actually can chew up the amount of available Wi-Fi signals in one given place. So that can cause things to become very complicated. So Bluetooth is a feature that's been built into the wave mount, so you can actually have your choice of Wi-Fi or Bluetooth control if you're going for a wireless connection. Both mounts do feature homing sensors, so this is something that you want to pay attention to if you have a wave mount on the way. Homing sensors are something that are generally found in the larger mounts. Our CQ350 has them, the EQA-Rs have them, but if you're coming at one of these with a Star Adventure or an EQ6 or something of that nature, when you turn this on, it is going to ask you to home the mount. So it's going to home the mount to the sensors, and that's where it knows that its starting point is. So I highly recommend that when you turn this on, please have it go to the home position. Now, you will probably be using this with the SynScan app. I should have screenshot this actually. SynScan Pro app. And usually where that is going to be hiding in the SynScan Pro app, let me see if it will even let me show you because I'm not connected. Oh, here it is. So when you go to the SynScan Pro app, I don't know if you guys can see this. You're going to open the home screen. There it's going to be. Then you're going to go down to Utility, click that, and then go to Advanced. And then up at the top, you'll see Auto Home. And usually what I do is it'll ask for deck and Alt offset. I just put 0 and I hit Start, and the mount should home. Now, if you're going to be using a SynScan hand controller, it's going to ask you a prompt in the beginning. Hit 1 for yes, hit 2 for no. I would recommend doing 1, hitting that, and having the mount auto home to its sensors. And then from there, you just follow the typical procedures of alignment at that point. But I do recommend doing that. That is another nice thing about these mounts, is if you are coming onto the Wave series from any Skywatcher go-to mount, you are already well versed in how these things work. If you know how an EQ6 or a Star Adventure GTI works, you know how a wave mount is going to act as well. It uses the same SynScan protocol, which is actually very nice, and it's a trend that continues inside the Skywatcher lineup. You don't have to learn any unique software features to do this. They act like any other mount, and if you already have an EQ6 and you want to just use one of these mounts for visual, you can use the hand controller, just plug it into the hand controller port and follow the typical prompts that you're used to, and go to town. That makes the wave mounts a very viable option for visual observers as well, because you don't need to have a box. You don't need to have a laptop or a joystick or an app to run these. You can if you prefer, but as someone who's also looking to use these for visual and outreach, that hand controller is very nice to have a very tactile feel to get your mount going and not having to link up to something else. Let's see. Someone who has owned a CQ350 for a while. We need end stops and encoders for this thing. I will pass that along. So the homing sensors on these are actually very helpful. Now, originally, we did say these were going to slew at about 10 degrees per second. We've actually dropped that down to 7.5 degrees per second slew speed. That's still plenty fast enough. It just helps, reduce stress on the components and power surges and stuff like that. So we have brought them down a little bit, but not a whole heck of a lot. But they still slew pretty quick enough to do satellite tracking. Now, a lot of people have been asking what our guide numbers have been looking like. I was hoping to have a guide log to show, but I couldn't obtain that quite in time. But here's a screenshot from one of our beta test team who's been working with these. You can see right there, about midway through the guiding run there, he's 30 shots in from a 60 shot run. The guiding is quite nice, actually. It's under 1 arc second. This was with about an Evo Guide 50, so about 250 millimeter focal length on the guider there. More than enough. So these numbers are very, very similar to what you'd probably see on most EQ6R mounts. So that's quite good for guiding there. Now, with any strain wave mount, just because of how the periodic error actually works on a strain wave system, it's stretched way out. So while these mounts don't have backlash, they do have a large amount of periodic error. That's just how the system works. It's not even who manufactures it. It's just how a strain wave drive is going to work. So I would highly recommend that you look at dithering as well when using these. However your control system works, if you're using an ASI Air or whatever, make sure dither is on. I do find that is quite helpful with a strain wave mount. But for those of you who are looking for guide numbers, here's just a quick evaluation of, this is a Wave 150 that this was being done on. But you can see the total RMS there at 0.63 right up here. That's actually pretty good. So hopefully that answers some questions. Now, there are going to be more reviews that are going to come out here soon. There's a handful of samples out there. So you'll probably see more and more guide logs come out for you to actually check out. But I wanted to at least provide some kind of guide screenshot for you guys to see, just, an overall RMS for a long imaging run. So oh, glad someone got a wave one. Some regions have gotten small batches of wave mounts. I believe Australia got some. I'm not sure if Europe has gotten any, but the U.S. and North American region, our first batch is due in just a couple weeks. So the Wave 100. Let's see. Question is, do I need a meridian flip if there are no snags? Well, you're going to have to meridian flip at some point, but just make sure that your cable management is handled. So, all right, so let's talk about the smallest one, the Wave 100i. The Wave 100 is a 22-pound capacity mount without counterweights, 33 pounds with counterweight. But yeah, there you go. So you can hold a variety of... The Wave 100 is a great little mount if you're shooting with small refractors, you're doing outreach for solar like we're doing here. That's a great option for that. Probably like a C6 Hyperstar would be pretty slick on a Wave 100. But this is going to be for your small mount, your small telescopes, nothing too big. Maybe a C8 if you're doing visual. But keep in mind, just because that is the payload listed, it is like any other mount. If you push a mount towards max payload limit, you're probably going to be more prone to vibrations and breezes and shaking. If people are walking around, you're going to be more prone to that. So just because it can hold all that extra weight, try it out. So maximum counterweight weight. I believe our counterweights are 11 pounds. And most of the counterweights when they're used on a strain wave mount are just to kind of keep it from falling over when you get to the upper payload limit. So I believe 11 pounds is our counterweight. That, like I said, that's just to kind of help smooth out the drives a bit. So here is the counterweight kit. I didn't have that pictured. We didn't use them too much at the Star Party. We didn't really need it, but there's the Wave 100 with the counterweight kit, and that's a Quattro 200, so 8-inch Newtonian up top there. That's also the carbon fiber tripod that's optional, and the optional carbon fiber tripod pier extension, which we'll go into that when we get more into the accessories. Head specifications, 9.5 pounds for the mount head. It's actually a very nice little mount. It's not too heavy. It does Altaz and equatorial. Both mounts actually do Altaz and equatorial. It does have dual saddles, which is going to be what I call the unique feature to the Wave 100, is the secondary saddle, which if you look close here on the left-hand side, we actually have that installed. But when you get your Wave 100, that secondary saddle will be in the case along with the mounting hardware to bolt it to the mount. There is a hole inside of there if you want to keep it mounted to use the optional counterweight bar if you want. Or don't use the secondary saddle. You can take it off. So that's all there in the case. Here is a Wave 100 in Altaz dual mode. You can see we've got the two telescopes there for solar there. It actually was kind of a nice little setup for doing solar. And the fact that it's so small and light makes it really easy to lug around some decent sized tubes. All of our strain wave mounts have the power braking, so if the power suddenly shuts off, it does engage and brake, so it doesn't move around. That is something that you are going to have to remember, however, at the end when you're tearing it down. Strain wave mounts do not have the typical clutch design. Like an EQ6, it's got those clutch levers. You can disengage them, you can move the mount back to its position and get it ready to get packed into its case or the car. Strain wave mounts do not have that feature. You need to probably home the mount or slew the mount back to whatever position that you want it to be in order to fit back in the case or however you're going to be traveling with it. If not, then it's just stuck in that position because these mounts do require power to move or anything. And for those of you who want to know the gear ratios, here's the gear ratios for the Wave 100. You've got both RA and DEC are 81:4. So if you want to know more about that, there you go. Here's a Wave 100, pretty much a complete Wave 100 sitting inside of a Pelican 1650 case. This is what I flew to Starfest with. I did have room to squeeze the Esprit 100 inside of there. However, it'd be nice if it was more like an 80 or some small refractor. But if you're looking for like the ultimate fly rig, a Wave 100 inside of its case with some cases to hold all your electronics, the tripod, the pier extension, and the counterweight are all inside this case with room to spare for a small telescope tube to sit up at the top there. That makes a very convenient fly rig. If you want to go imaging anywhere or viewing anywhere, or if you're an eclipse chaser, it will all fit inside of here. You should probably have no problem doing a Wave 150 as well. The case isn't that much bigger. So a Wave 150 would also fit inside of this Pelican 1650 along with all the support accessories and room for a telescope. So these strain wave mounts are very good for traveling. especially if you're going by air, and they're probably the ultimate eclipse chasing mounts because they're small, but they're going to hold a decent amount of weight as well. And then, of course, if you're getting a Wave 100, when you open up the case, here's what's going to look like. The counterweight extension bar up the top is an optional thing. It's not included, but there is a slot up there in the case that the head comes with for the counterweight bar and the pure extension. But you're going to get your typical stuff. You're going to get the mount head, secondary saddle. This is the USB-B for PC control or motor controller firmware updates, as well as the standard 2.1 millimeter cigarette style battery pack or power cable. But it all fits inside of there. There is a slot here if you want to keep the secondary saddle installed. If not, there's another slot there. That's just the case that you get. And on top of the case, it will say Wave 100i, just like it looks right there. It'll be screen printed right on top of the case as well. So that is how you get that is a Wave 100 right there in its packaging. Now, real quick, I did the same thing on the previous Wave episode, but we'll run back down. So on the front of the Wave 100, you're going to have the USB-B. This is for PC control and motor controller updates. Now, I will preface this. We are still advancing the firmware on these. What you get with it is perfectly fine, but they are finding new things to add and sharpen up these mounts even as we speak. So when you get your Wave 100, or when you get your Wave mount, I would highly recommend going to skywatcher.com, the global website, and checking the latest firmware. These will have production firmware when you get them, but even lately they have been adding new updates to these. So I would recommend checking that out. When you get it, just flash the firmware and make sure you're up to the latest build, because we are continuing to add new features for the Wave mounts. So you're going to do that with the included USB-B cable or any USB-B cable, and it plugs right there in the front faceplate of the mount. Followed by that, you have the hand controller cable. This is also the hand controller port. This is where you would plug in an optional SynScan hand controller, or if you already have a SynScan hand controller from an equatorial mount, you can plug that into that port. Or if you're using an EQ mod cable to do any kind of control, that would also plug into the hand controller port. Second is the serial cable port for a guide camera. I understand a lot of people are actually using just USB, but we do still put that in there. And then you have the 2.1 millimeter power port. And just below the 2.1 is the click-on power button. It's actually really nice because it is tactile. You press it in, turns red. It lets you know the status of the mount by the blinks. It's also the power light as well. So this button right here, it'll be flush when it's off, and this one right here, it's actually pushed in because that's technically in the on position mode. So if it was powered on, everything would be backlit red and stuff like that. But that is the front faceplate of the Wave 100. Now, the bigger one, the Wave 150, this is probably going to be the most popular out of the two because this one really is designed for the astrophotographer in mind and does carry some very unique features that are really focused on astrophotography. So the Wave 150 is 33-pound payload capacity without counterweights and 55 with a counterweight. That's quite a bit of weight for something like this. The scope that's actually pictured here right now, that is the SkyMax 180 MacCAS, and it holds it without a counterweight at all. A couple questions. Could you mention the payload in sort, please? What kind of gear does the Wave have? I'd have to look into that. You probably want to email support@skywatchusa.com if you want really technical stuff. I'd have to double check with the engineers on that. Will an ASI Air support this mount? This has come up recently. It was brought to our attention at Starfest. There was this rumor going around that ASI Airs did not work on the Wave mounts. Now, as someone who's been testing this for the past few months, we did find that early firmware that we were testing was not ASI Air compatible, and we caught that. And and we pushed really hard to make sure that that was not the case. So production level firmware that is shipping now works ASI Air right out of the box. It should be no different of an experience than using any other mount that we have. So yes, they are ASI Air compatible. No problem. We've had multiple people running them with ASI Airs. We've ran them with ASI Airs. So if you have one, no problem at all. The firmware that was having those bugs will never, ever see the light of day beyond our test team. So don't worry about that. But yes, they are ASI Air compatible. So. Can we power the mount from a power boxes? I don't like powering mounts through power boxes. Power boxes are made for cable management of multiple devices. And a lot of these things probably have about a 10 amp roughly window. Now, if you're running all these other things on there, you're going to chew through that amperage pretty quick, and the mount requires 2. If you underpower a Skywatcher mount, you have the ability of damaging the motor board. So I never recommend powering a mount through a power box. I recommend running it on its own power source and using the power box to run your various accessories on the mount. But I do not recommend doing a power box. So, ASI Air doesn't work with AZ-EQ6 and Altaz. Will these be supported in Altaz mode? That's a ZWO question. I don't know why the ASI Air seems to have some issues with Altaz, but that's a ZWO question there. So, is there a way to use a Los Mondi heavy duty mount with the Wave 150? Probably not at the moment, but there's no reason adapters couldn't be made. The Wave mounts use a 3/8 thread mounting thread at the bottom, and they also have a mounting puck. So I'm sure somebody could make an adapter to mate these to pretty much anything. They're pretty easy to actually mount to whatever you want. So right now, there's no adapter that exists for the Los Mondi tripods, but it would be pretty simplistic to make one. Not a bad idea. Real quick here, just to kind of show you guys what the Wave 150 is capable of doing. This right here is a video of a Wave 150, no counterweight bar, throwing around a C11 Edge HD with, quite honestly, no problem. Now, I don't know that I would image in this combination. It was actually really solid on this. It'd be a pretty nice visual combination. You could probably do some okay lunar stuff with it. But again, remember, these are low mass mounts, so breezes and stuff, just like anything else. But it is a solid setup. It holds it pretty well. If you're running a Hyperstar on it, you could probably do just fine. But yeah, that's an 11-inch Edge HD. Obviously, it doesn't have the dew shield and a bunch of other accessories on it. So a Edge HD 11 is about 28 pounds. So this is under the threshold limit without a counterweight for the Wave 150. So if you're looking for a lightweight option for like an 11-inch on down for visual, a Wave 150 isn't a problem. If you want to image with a C11, like I said, I don't know that I would do F7 on it. Keep in mind, these mounts are small. The gears are not big. So I understand everyone wants to do this long focal length imaging. It's just your mileage may vary on this because you're still pushing the mount to its payload limits. So, but if you're looking for something lightweight for visual, most logical stuff will fit on the Wave 150. I really wanted to track down a C14 to mount one and on there just to try it out because theoretically it would work, but I wasn't able to locate a C14. So, and I don't have one laying around. So, on top of that, we went bigger. So this is the Wave 150 with a Stellar View 180 triplet. The tube's about 5 feet long, 45 pounds. And yes, I was very nervous mounting this thing because the saddle on this is so small. Now, I do have the Wave 150 adapted to a CQ350 tripod just because I needed a very, very hefty tripod to handle such a tube. I would not recommend pushing the carbon fiber tripods with high payloads. We are going to have a steel tripod for these to get the max payload, and we are working on getting that released. You'll probably see that maybe by the end of the year. You'll see more about the EQ6 Pure adapter that's coming and the matching steel tripod that will be available for the wave mounts. We're trying to work on that. It's just we've been trying to get the wave mounts themselves out the door, but there will be some more supporting accessories for higher payloads. So my RC10 is about 35. You could put it on a Wave 150, but you're still encroaching on that payload limit. Your mileage may vary on that. Long focal length and lightweight mounts are generally not a great combo. It just doesn't have that stability that you really need when you're shooting at 2,000 plus millimeters. So, but yeah, the wave mount handled this big refractor without much of a problem. I wouldn't image with this combo, but it holds it. So I can, but you can see it does have the counterweight on there to make sure it's somewhat balanced. But again, please keep in mind, this is on a very stable, large tripod. So do not load the carbon tripod with these massive tubes. So, head specifications, you're at 12.8 pounds for the Wave 150. It does Altaz and Equatorial, but there's only one saddle for the Wave 150. We weren't able to route a second saddle in there, so you can only do one scope on a 150. It does have the power braking. It does have cable management. This is the unique thing about it, which I'll show you here in a minute. And then when you get a Wave 150, here's basically what you're going to get. You're going to get the mount head. You'll get the USB-B, and then you'll get the power cable in there. And then up at the top, like the other case, there is a slot for the optional counterweight bar and its extension, and that does come with the counterweight as a kit. But there is room for the bars to sit inside of the case, so that's kind of cool. So, all right, so let's talk about cable management. So on the back of your Wave 150, just behind the right ascension, there's going to be a collection of various ports. So we have the set of 3 ports and then the 2 on the left side here. This is if you're on the back of the mount. You have a 2.1 millimeter power port. You have your hand controller port. That's also for EQ mod cable if you're going to do that. And then you have the USB-B. That all sits on the back of the right ascension, which is very nice. So none of that moves. Unlike an EQ6 or an EQ8 where it's mounted to the side of the right ascension, it's moving. None of your cables here are going to move. So that is something that's pretty nice. Now, up on the saddle, we do have cable management, which is rather unique for a strain wave mount. I believe we're the first ones to actually introduce that as a built-in system. And it's not just one port for power and a USB-C. It's a variety of things. So we have a 2.5 millimeter port for the saddle and then the USB out. Now, I'm sure people are going to ask, why did we do 2.5s on the saddle? Well, number one, it's also so you don't confuse which one is which. And number two, 2.5 has better power throughput than 2.1 does. So that's why that exists. So if you're going to be running power up to the saddle, you are going to need 2.5 millimeter cables for that. You can get them on Amazon or anything like that. They're not expensive, or you can get AC that's got 2.5 millimeter tip for the power up to the saddle. Now up on the saddle there, you've got two 2.5 millimeter power ports. You have the USB. We have someone who's been testing the USB 3.0 through the mount, and they're able to get 126 frames per second running through that hub. So it's a fast little thing. And then the guide port for the 150 is going to be up on the saddle there next to all the cable management ports. Now, another very unique thing to the Wave 150 is what I would call balance clutches. Now, these clutches are not so you can disengage and move the mount across the sky. These are clutches that back off the mount just enough to where you can actually balance in right ascension and deck. So for declination, right underneath the saddle, there are two black knobs that you're going to get on yours, and you want to unthread those. And what that does is it gives the saddle about 15 to 20 degrees left to right, just enough to where you can actually balance your optical tube system up on the saddle and balance that out. So that's actually really nice to have. You don't have to guess. You can actually physically, what I would do is I would slew the deck to where your telescope is sideways or horizontal to the ground, unthread those locks, and then you can actually balance the tube, then reset them and lock them in. And then there is also going to be one on the right ascension. Now the production mounts, this one is black, but the production ones that you will get, all these knobs, this knob, all the lower knobs here are anodized green to match the green right here, including the rear right ascension balance clutch. So you loosen that, and it gives you about 90 degrees or so of movement on the right ascension for the Wave 150. Again, enough for you to balance if you feel the need to do so. And then the power button for the 150 sits here on the side of the plate there. And then here's the gear ratios for the RA and the deck. I do understand some of you have some more technical questions as far as like the torque that is able to use. All that you will have to email support and we can ask the engineers. Yeah, they did switch everything to 2.5 for the saddles rather than 2.1s. 2.1 is designed to run the mount, and then the 2.5s just allow more throughput up to the saddle there. And then that way you don't mix them up either. So that is something they switched recently. So that is all the production ones will be 2.5 for the power. So if you're running stuff through up to the top of the saddle, you will need to find 2.5 to 2.1 cables, which they exist, and then you can route that to your camera or your ASI Air or something like that. Now, Wave accessories, the ones that you'll see first, this is the carbon fiber tripod. This is going to be available in the first, or once these mounts start shipping. These are what's out there. So we have the carbon fiber tripod. The carbon fiber tripod is made to be a portable, lightweight tripod. It is not designed to be the maximum payload tripod like the steel one that we're about to talk about. So max payload is 44 pounds. This is like your travel tripod. Small, lightweight telescopes. Great little combo, and it weighs nothing. It's about 20 inches long when it's retracted. Extended, it goes up to about 29 inches. So it's rather small. And then it only weighs 5.3 pounds. It is woven carbon fiber, and then you do have aluminum connections, and then the locks are kind of a friction lock there in the middle. And this is compatible with the 100 and the 150. Now, the 100 has a smaller puck on the bottom of it. So the tripods and the extenders will come with what's a step-down ring that allows it to be centered inside of the mounting cups on the tripod and the pier extension. Let's see. Is the Wave 150 designed to have better guiding than the 100? It does have a larger gear, so you might get a little bit better guiding on the 150 just because the gears are larger. But the 100 should still be acceptable. Let's see. Yeah, 2.1. It's 2.1 for powering the mount itself, and then up on the side of the saddle and the input on the bottom of the right ascension to power the ports up top are all 2.5s. So Pure extension. So this is the basic pure extension that works on the carbon fiber tripod. There are going to be a couple of these actually. So it gives you about 7-inch of extension, weighs 2.4 pounds. It has the 3/8 mounting threads inside of there. The first one that's going to be available that you can see right now for pre-order, that is for the carbon fiber tripod. So it just sits up top there, and it gives you an extension. It puts it up about 7 inches higher. So it's still a little short for visual in some cases. It wouldn't be great for the longer refractors. But if you're imaging and you want something light, it works totally fine, and it gives you a little bit more clearance around the legs. Now, coming up, hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be announcing this one, which is exactly the same. This is the EQ6 extension, and it's not just an extension, it's an adapter, because what it's made to do is to mate a wave mount, giving you that 7-inch extension that you're looking for, but it's also going to allow you to mate it to an EQ6 tripod if you already have one. If not, there will be a matching black tripod coming out, as you see pictured here, for the wave mounts. That's probably going to be what you want, especially for the 150, to give you the maximum payload that you're looking to get on a Wave 150 mount. But we will be doing that, and the price for the pure extension on the EQ6 version, it'll be the same as the current one. And then the steel tripod won't be that expensive because it's a steel tripod. So, when will they begin shipping? Probably early September. The first shipment is already on the way. It's just got to get through the QA process once it arrives. So by the time it arrives here through QA and makes it out to people, probably early September. About a month off than what we were actually quoting, but not too terrible. Make it white. Well, the wave mounts are black, so we wanted to match it with the black. But if you want a white tripod, you're welcome to paint whatever you want. So, the counterweight kits. I'm actually really happy about the counterweight kits because they're stainless steel. I would love to actually offer these weights for the EQ6s as well because the stainless looks pretty sharp. They're 11-pound counterweights. The counterweight kit is going to include the counterweight bar as well as the extension bar. So if you end up buying a couple counterweights, you're going to have multiple bars. That's just how that's going to work. So the knobs are actually machined aluminum and anodized green, so they're all pretty sharp looking. And this is compatible with both the Wave 100 and Wave 150 mounts. So that's that. So that was pretty much it. We finished up a little earlier than I thought. If you guys have questions, please throw them out there because we do have some time. But that's pretty much it for today's episode. You can subscribe and leave a like on a video. Let us know we're doing a good job. If you have any questions on the What's Up Webcast, please email us at info@skywatcherusa.com. Now, if you have technical questions about the wave mounts, please email us at support@skywatcherusa.com. And if you're looking for very technical stuff, we'll have to ask some of our engineering team. So there might be a little bit of a delay getting you a full-fledged answer on that, but we can find out if that's what you're looking for. But that's pretty much it for today's episode on the wave mounts. We are very excited to finally get these out in the world. We are very, very close, so thank you for being patient. And I'm sure you will see some videos coming out from various people because there are samples floating out in the world, and we're excited to see what they have to say about it as well. So keep an eye out for reviews that are coming out. I would like to preface those reviews really quickly. We don't cherry pick stuff at Skywatcher. We send out what we get, and that is what our review people get. They're not cherry picked. Nothing. We let our product speak for itself, and whatever they find is them, is theirs. So we're not here to, not be truthful about it. We're very transparent when it comes to being a company and our product. And if something's not working, we'll address it. But we like our products to stand on their own accord, and we don't like to get involved with reviews. We provide the product, and you review what you find. That's how it should be. So. All right, next week we are going over Ontario Starfest. We went this year. It was a good time, and now we are back to talk about our second year at Ontario Starfest. This was my first year, but we'll be going all over that next week. So if you have any questions or you're curious about attending that in the future, take a look. So it should be kind of cool. Other than the weight, are the wave mounts better than the EQ6? I don't know that they're better. Both mounts are very nice. I use an AZ EQ6 for outreach a lot of the times, and that mount has been great. But I will probably personally be replacing it with a wave mount because the wave mount is so much lighter. It's like a fourth of the weight of an AZ EQ6. But I have no question that the wave mount won't be just as successful and bulletproof for what we do than the AZ EQ6 is. So I'm looking forward to getting my own as well and giving it a try. But yeah, I don't know that anyone is better than another, but the AZ EQ6 has had a long track record to be one of the most reliable mounts out there. I don't see any reason why the waves should not be there on that level, but being way lighter, as someone who does a lot of events and lugs a lot of gear, that weight is very, very appealing. It's a lot less to worry about at the end of the night when you're done and burned out. Rather than lugging a 40-pound head, you just throw this tiny little 12-pound head in a case, and yep. So, all right, everyone, that's pretty much it. Like I said, if you have any major tech questions, please email support@skywatcherusa.com. We'll be happy to answer any questions. We are getting a lot of questions, so please be patient, and we'll get back to you as fast as we possibly can. But if you have a pre-order, they are on the way. The first batch is on the way, so thanks for being patient. There are a lot more mounts on the way as well, so just because you're not part of the first batch doesn't mean yours isn't going to be that much longer. We have quite a bit ordered and ready to go. So I think many pre-orders will be done in the next few months. So just be patient. If you don't get the first batch, there's more coming. So, but anyway, yep, that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching, everyone. Please have a great weekend. Keep an eye out for those review videos and reviews from third parties. I think you'll be happy about that. And other than that, we will see you guys next week for another episode of the What's Up Webcast, where we're checking out Starfest. So thanks again, clear skies, and we will see you guys all next weekend. See you. Bye.